Hey, welcome to another episode of No Gears, No Glory. Today's episode we're going to do something a little different. We're going to move away from the side-by-side and the quads and the car. Today we're going to work on fabricating up something new and different. This has been a project that I've had in mind for a little while. What we're going to be working on is this. We're going to take this 20-inch basic bike, we're going to cut it down, and we're going to reconstruct it and turn it into this. This is the end goal, but making it on my own. The only couple parts that I'm going to use is going to be like the front tire and pedal assembly. I'd rather buy that and keep it simple, looking nice and functional, than cobble together something with. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by cutting the frame right here, and then we're going to cut it off right here. We want to leave this down pipe. We're going to cut off this part, and probably the perch as well. All we should be left with is this stem, the pedal drum, and the neck, and the handlebars. Of course, the forks. Here we go, let's start some cutting. As always, make sure you got your eye protection. You want a completed project. You don't want an injury. All right? Cover your eyes. Here we go. Well, part of step one's done. Let's move on. Let's keep going. This is kind of fun. I like cutting. So here's what we're left with. We've got the end pieces cut off, basically the barrel, and then the neck right here. We'll grind that down. And I think we're actually going to attach something to that. So this may actually end up being covered to a certain degree. We're going to have to grind this old weld off. Progress. Loving it. All right. So next step is to grind. We're going to grind that stuff down there. Going to grind it down there. And see if we can make that nice and smooth. All right. Here we go. Again, make sure you got some gear, gloves, eye protection. Cover yourself up. So here's where we are. Ground down the edges, reasonably smooth. We got a little bit of pieces that we have to take off here, and we'll smooth those out. And then down here, you may be able to see, we ground that out not well. Yeah, I'm not good at that. Apparently that's not something that I know how to do well. But that's okay. It's my first time I've ever done anything like that. So in that case, I did great. So I want really smooth edges. Again, I want to make it kind of clean, so I'm going to clean them up with a couple files. Alright, now that we've got it to this point, we need to figure out what we're going to do from here. We have to have a stem that comes out this way, and as an example, this is our downward neck right here that we have left. So what we have to create is this platform right here for the seat that's going to come back here to the back axle. And we're going to end up having to create some kind of widened frame as well so that we have a seat. Oh, we're going to create a seat too. We'll come up with that later. So using this trike as a reference, we're going to measure the length of this from here to here to see what we need to match up on our trike. Got roughly 21 inches. So I've already got this steel for this project. I believe it's 120 wall, 2 inches by 1.5 or 3 by 2. 3 by 2. Let's go with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to measure out our 21 inches on here, and then we'll go ahead and cut it. shouldn't be the one doing that with this. But I did that. All right, let's see how close we came. Slightly long. I like it. That'll work for us. So ideally, at this point, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna attach it to this. So, probably gonna have to do a little bit of cutting, a little bit of bolting, eventually a little bit of welding. Right? That's the next step. Here we go. So at this point, we probably should get an idea of how tall it needs to be. Like, what is the right height gonna be? About 4.5 inches. So these brakes are roughly the 4.5 inches that we want to be off the ground. They're actually 4 3/4, which a little bit higher is probably not a bad thing. So let's go with that. So as a test fit, what we'll do is we'll set it on here. Sits in there like that. It's a pretty good fit. So the next thing we want to do is we want to get a hole saw that we can cut the steel with that matches the radius of this pedal barrel. Okay, so again at this point, what we need to do is go ahead and cut a semicircle here out of the steel so we can wrap part of the steel around the barrel and then bolt it together. Theoretically, that should work. Logically, it makes sense. So that's where we're heading next. Alright, more cutting. Here we go. So once you figure out the size of the barrel that you want to use, this one's just slightly smaller. Set it in place where you want to make your cut, roughly. I'm going to go slightly higher because I want less material up here and more material on the bottom to bolt to. Don't forget your eye protection, and make sure you wear hearing protection as well. Drilling is loud. And you look really cool with it. Alright, maybe you'll look cool, but it's safe. There we go. We got 2 holes. That's 2. Alright, now that we've got that hole cut, let's see how we fared. Need to clean up the edges first. One moment. Or something. Alright, test fit time, test fit time, test fit time. I knew that would happen. I knew that would happen. That's alright, I knew that would happen. So at this point, what we need to do is bend this out a little bit so it follows the curve of the top of the barrel. Alright, so in order to bend this, we're going to have to cut the metal here on the corners so that it has some leverage spots. Alright? So again, get your eye protection, get your hearing protection, and get your choice to play. So next what we want to do is cut out a notch right here for the neck of what's remaining of the bike. So it sits down in there and allows the barrel to sit into here deeper. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and clean this up a little bit and shave it down and curve it and smooth it out. You know, smack it up, flip it, rub it down. And there you have it, folks. The cutout. Alright. Well, would you look at that? Not bad. We just need to notch out a little bit more. I'm pretty happy with that. All right, I deepened the hole, widened it a little bit. Let's see where we landed. All right, very nice. So now what we want to do, we want to tap it down to get it to form around the barrel. Now that we have it relatively where we want it, we're going to mark the lines of where the metal kind of comes to, so we know roughly where it needs to be when we start bolting things together. Alright, next we're going to drill out a couple of small holes through here and through here into the barrel so that we can kind of temporarily bolt it in place, and so we have everything lined up. Here's where we're at right now. Interestingly enough, I started drilling through the steel that we were attaching to the barrel, and then started drilling through the barrel as well. There's an inner piece right here that you can see. It looks like it might be pressed in on both sides. Drilling through that has proved to be way more difficult than I would have thought. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can pull those out. That's our next step. So they do come out. Voila! Haha! Success goes to me once again. Man over object. Not sure what else to say. But I'm excited I won on that one. Okay, so at this point I'm figured out that I think I pretty much screwed up. Basically what I did is I took off too much material here and maybe even over here, so I made it too wide. This is always meant to be my template. This is the prototype, so to speak, and then I would actually use a stronger, better framed bike and then rebuild the frame down here, and I might be able to do that, but what I wanted to do is create holes here and then put some kind of bolt in there, but I just don't have enough material to really do that. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to bolt down here, probably a couple bolts on the bottom, and then I don't know, maybe just some kind of self-tappers up here to hold it in place so I can get the holes drilled for the bottom and just give it some stability, and then go from there. Yeah, let's try that. Coming up next. Well, there we have it. Drilled a couple of holes right here, and then I threw a couple of self-tappers in there just to hold it in place. And basically we're going to flip this over, and then we're going to drill 2 new holes on the bottom. And I think I'll temporarily just leave these here, and we'll throw a couple bolts in there and see how sturdy that is, if at all. Here we go! Well, something I want to do first is tap this down so that it kind of follows that curve before I start drilling holes. And let's do that now. Okay, now. Clearly, I don't know the first thing about working with steel. You need kind of a solid surface. Back to the vise. Alright, I like it. Let's give her a thumbs up. Alright, so let's go ahead and drill 2 holes. Woohoo! Yeah! We have 2 holes. Alright, now we just gotta make them bigger. There we go. We got a couple holes that we can put some bolts in. And now we just gotta get the bolts. Let me grab those and then we'll be right back. Alright, we got hardware. So now we just gotta bolt it together. There we have it. All right, so let's see how strong this frame is. It's gonna be really low to the ground. So let's go down here. Let's see. It's actually pretty sturdy. Pretty sturdy. All right. Well, now what we need to do is create the back half where the wheels are going to go. And of course we need to create a perch for the seat. What is next? What I'm doing is just measuring the width of this trike so we can see how wide we want ours to be. This is roughly 31 inches and it drifts pretty well. So let's go for 31 inches. Maybe 32. I like even numbers. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and cut our piece out. This is gonna be our rear piece at 32 inches. Here we go. Make sure you got your eye protection and you got your earring protection. Success. Woo. You would think cutting is hard work, but man, I am sweating. Woo. At this point, what we're going to do is we're going to take the cross member, bolt it up, essentially. But how we're going to do that is a little bit more complicated. What we're going to do is we're going to weld these together so that they come together. But again, this being our prototype, we're going to connect this and this via either cutting here and here and here and here and bolting it together. I want to make it look a little bit nicer than just kind of a boring T. If you look at this trike, you'll see that there's kind of a slight angle here, kind of an arch built into it. Even on this, which is like a razor, kids drift trike, where I'm kind of fashioning mine after, even has a little bit of an arch. And not only does it probably give it a little bit better balance, but it just gives it a little bit more of a sophisticated look. So what we're going to do here is something similar. We're going to have to make some kind of cut here. Obviously we'll measure, make sure we're centered, and we'll do it like a triangulation so we can bend this in and kind of create more of an arch to it, and it'll give it a little bit more of, like I said, a sophisticated kind of stylized look. And then we will cut here, both sides, bend it out basically so that this sits inward, and then we'll bolt it up. That's the plan. Let's execute it. So what we're going to do is basically we're going to line this up, we're going to measure it, find our center spacing, and then our center spacing will be where we end our cut here to give us our angle. Again, we'll find our center spacing, measure here to here to find our depth of how far we should cut this. Again, factoring in our bend here and on the back side to go around this. Again, we're going to just bolt it from here to here. Nothing left to it but to do it. Here we go. Alright, now we got our measurements from here. I'm estimating roughly 3.5 inches. So if we go back here, we're going to have a bend up and then a slight bend out. So it'll take up maybe 1/4 inch. If we have to, we'll cut a little bit off the end. And again, we're going to be coming in to this, which is kind of angled out here. And so now we got to get our measurement there. So this is just going to be a little bit of guesswork. Alright, now we have our measurements. Time to do some cutting. Here we go. Alright, the first cut we're going to make is our backside cut to create our arch, and then we'll work on the interior angled cuts. As always, make sure you got your eye protection, and make sure you got your hearing protection. All right, we got it. There we go. So, not sure how well you can see that. Basically now, we're just gonna bend it in, give us our angle. Ugly hot piece of metal right there. Whew. Very hot. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, so as you can see, this is much more of an aesthetic look. I think it looks nicer. The angle looks better. It probably gives you a little bit more balance too when you have the wheels back here at a little bit further angle. Next thing we have to do is now cut our sides here and get our bend so that this can come here and this will tuck in to that. All right, here we go. All right, there we have it. Now let's bend them out and pound them into place. So my initial intention was just to bend the sides out and to use those as a bolting, to bolt up to the cross member. However, this is pretty thick still. It's pretty hard, pretty solid. To get a solid bend out of that is going to be fairly difficult. So I think what we're going to do is we're just going to cut it off in here, and we'll start modestly. We'll pretty it up in post-assembly. Alright, so I'm going to try and do this on camera while I'm holding it, and basically we just want to tuck it in there kind of like that. Let's pound that in, see if maybe that just a little bit of being rough, getting rough with it. We'll just pound it in there and then we can just massage the metal around it. Okay, here we go. Alright, so I just verified that we have 26 inches from here to here, 26 inches from here to here. Our slit down the center is pretty much centered right on the 1.5 inch mark of this 3 inch wide beam. It's almost like I did it on purpose. Kind of did. So now, what we're going to do is we're going to drill a couple holes here, all the way through, and get a couple of bolts to put it together. Alright, so just spent a few minutes grinding down the edges of this bend. We're actually going to bend it this way. So in order to get bolts to go through, we need to drill all the way through, because I don't have a way of capturing a bolt on the interior of this. So we're probably going to get a 2.5 inch, 2 3/4 bolt that'll go all the way through. In order to make sure that the bolt holes are going to line up, we're drilling through here and drilling on the trike stem where this connects. I'm going to create a template. I'm going to use a cardboard and rough out the center of these holes so that we can rough out the center of those holes, and then we'll know that the holes line up no matter where we go. I'm going to show you so it makes sense. because I don't think it made any sense when I described it right now. Okay. So basically what we want to do is create a template so that our holes line up here and then our holes line up there, and I don't have to try to hold it in place and drill through both things at the same time. So I've already created a mark for where I basically want my template to go. The edge here, create an edge here, and this will be our bolt space, and then we'll match it up to the back axle, sure, whatever we call that. Alright, you wouldn't believe it, I didn't catch it on camera because I was kind of tinkering around, but I have a Harbor Freight welder that I got earlier this year. I haven't touched it, and to be quite honest, I've been afraid to. I've been kind of nervous about it, setting it up. I've never done it. I've watched plenty of videos on how to set it up and how to you know, kind of weld, beginner welding, but I've never done it. So I wanted to see if I could tack in place this so I can create the whole template, and I just kept going and tinkering with it, and that is a terrible weld. Oh my gosh. But you know what? No one's here to judge. No one's here to judge. This it's the first time I've ever done it. Self-taught. Figuring out the settings on the welder is kind of a thing. So yeah, just a victory dance for me. It's just a victory dance. I'm like super excited because I just welded for the first time. It's terrible. It's horrible. It's messy. Probably would have been better had I cleaned up the metal a little bit more. But I can clean it up. Nothing else? We can create our template for our holes. Yeah! Okay, moving on. Alright, we've had a little bit of a time jump. So what I did is I drilled holes in the cross member here and in this frame member. I ended up not being able to get this to fit in between the two pieces, so I cut the sides and I cut this piece off. But the problem is, if you put weight on this half over here is just going to bend when weight's put on it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the square piece that I cut off and I'm going to weld it because I'm doing a little bit of welding right now. And we'll weld the sides and around here to give it some structure and some strength. We'll go from there. Alright, be right back. Alright, so I'm not sure how well this will capture on film, so you know, hopefully you can make it into the final edit. But I'm going to weld that plate on, and we're going to see if I can make it strong enough to hold some weight. Them's are some ugly welds. Oof. Yeah, this is my first time. I'm okay with it. So as of right now, our welds are cooling. We'll probably have to redo some of those, or the whole thing. Maybe grind it off or clean it up enough to weld it right again. But for now, the next step we want to do is start marking our spots for the wheels on the back. We're going to do a caster wheel. I have these laying around, so that's what we're going to use for right now. They're a pretty sturdy wheel. I'm going to do one with a brake and one without, just so that we have a brake on there. So well, would you look at that? Would you look at that? They don't line up great. I really got to get better at that. But we can drill them out a little bit. Alright. You know what? This is still the prototype. I'm just going to send it. We'll throw some washers and some nuts in there and we'll be good. Alright. Ha ha ha! We have a rolling chassis. Look at this. It moves. It moves. Yes. Woo-hoo. Love it. Look at that. Now, the front end, you can see, sits a little lower than I want, but that's okay. It is off the ground at this point. It's got a little bit of a tilt to it. So that is beautiful. Yes! Okay, so what do we need now? Let's test. Alright, let's see. Man, that's feels pretty sturdy. There's very little flex in that. Nice. Progress, I love it. Well, we have a rolling chassis, and I'm excited about that. The fact that I got this far, did some welding, a little bit of fabrication, a little bit of design. I am extremely happy with how that came out, how it looks. You know, kind of getting that angle. I'm excited. That's great. Again, this is my first time fabricating and kind of designing this kind of stuff. It's something I've always wanted to do, and here I am, finally doing it. So at this point, while the project is not done, there's still a lot more to be done. We're gonna have to shelve this project. We're gonna have to come back to this one in future videos where we can continue the process of getting a seat on it and figuring out the spacing for that. Again, we have to figure out the pedals for the front wheel. Turns out that freewheel style wheels like that are really hard to come by right now. They're in very short supply. I've looked all over the internet, and everybody's out of stock. I imagine there's probably only one or two manufacturers of that kind of stuff around the world, and they don't have them. So again, we're gonna just put a pin in it and come back to it. So we got new videos coming soon, so stay tuned for those. Thanks a lot for being with me. Thanks a lot for viewing. If you like the content we got here, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, and again, we're trying to do 2 videos a week. Sometimes we're hit and miss on that, but that's alright. We're coming back no matter what. And this is No Gears, No Glory. We'll see you next time.